very much for coming to this special behind closed doors session at the Eurogamer Expo. We're very lucky to have with us today a man who's been hugely influential to the development of the shooter genre with his involvement on games such as Doom and Quake and Wolfenstein, and of course the excellent Rage, which I'm sure you'll be keen to drop in. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome from id Software, Tim Willits.
Started making Doom levels, Doom 1 levels, and back then there really wasn't much of a mod community, there wasn't much of an internet. I was actually uploading them to VBS. Most people under 20 have no clue what a VBS is. I was noticed, they were looking for designers, and the rest is history. So it's very exciting because before working at id, I actually used to daydream about working at id, and I've been there for 17 years, and it's still exciting. It's still a dream job.
You ever look back on those maps that you made? Are you embarrassed by them now, or are you still proud of them, or what?
They're actually pretty good. It wasn't that long ago that I fired those up. I didn't align all the textures very well, but yeah, I still think they're good.
When you look back at that and you look at the industry now, do you think the industry has changed to the point where someone with your kind of, would someone be able to do what you did today, or has the industry changed to a point where that's not really possible anymore?
It's much more difficult, but I still think, and I still tell people, creating a mod, creating levels, creating textures or characters is still the best. We have people that interview at id all the time, and we always ask them, what mod have you made? What can you show us? And it doesn't matter what game, regardless of what company that you're interviewing at, you can show them anything from any title, and it shows initiative. It shows that people have genuine passion for it, and that's really the types of designers and artists and programmers that we're looking for.
So like Little Big Planet levels, you take a look at those.
Yes, I am a huge Little Big Planet fan. Because I have 7-year-old triplets. It's always good to look for 4-player co-op. And let me tell you, the fact that I can get 3 7-year-olds and myself to jump from one platform to another platform, I should get an achievement for that. That is nice.
But can you do that in New Super Mario Bros. Wii?
That is a little trickier because you can push, and they're, you push me off, and they argue a bit about getting thrown off. And then with the grappling hook and Little Big Planet 2, they like to grapple their brother and sister into death.
So you do kind of play other games other than shooters at home then, even though you're best known for kind of creating shooters?
Yes. Mostly I play kid games, which someday I would love to make. Because there is a lack of good kid games. Most of them are licensed, and they're either rushed, they're not fun, they're either too hard for the kids or too easy. But I would love to have a game where I can play as an adult and have a challenge at the same time that the kids could. I know that by the time I get around to making a kid game, all my kids will be adults, but that's something that I would like to do.
It's interesting. We saw at E3 this year, with all those Connect kid games, it does have a feeling that maybe they're just making these kids games because they feel like it's easy, but it's not so easy, is it?
Oh no, it's. I think it's actually much more difficult because the understanding that us as adults have, it's just kids have a more difficult time connecting the dots and really understanding things. Even the menu systems can sometimes be difficult for kids. And you're right. A lot of the Connect games, and I've looked at them, because I'm looking for entertainment for the family. They're just not very good, which is sad.
Do you let your kids play your games, or are they a little bit?
Well, this is a funny story. I was, the driving components in Rage very new for us, and I was working with all sorts of different, tables for friction and driving and this and that, and I kids were up at work, and I said, hey, can you drive around? And I had a test level. So, the kids were able to drive around, and they were able to turn and stop, and I was like, that's it. I got it. If 7-year-olds can drive in Rage, it's perfect. So now they go to school, and they say, my dad lets us play Rage. And so teachers were like, heads exploding, and F-bombs, and I was like, no, it's still prototyping. So, yes, I'm actually very good. And I think most game developers with children are better at policing content than your average parent out there.
Well, in terms of that gory content, heads exploding and all that, heads exploding, that's nothing. But is there a line? Is there something you wouldn't, or have you in fact, put something in a game and then looked at it again and thought that's too gory, that's too explicit, and taken it out again?
Actually, no. We actually started with Rage, and we wanted to focus on the gameplay and the fun factor. We actually started out trying to create a teen-rated game. We thought something new. We'd really, focus on the gameplay more than the gore. And just at every intersection, we're like, oh man, it was so much better if we cut that head off. And we tried hard, we did, and we failed and said, oh, screw it, we'll make it M-rated. But we have sensibilities as mature developers. We know where those lines are.
Do you think it's more difficult to see where the line is as games do get more realistic? Do you buy into the argument that games are different to movies because they're interactive, and as games do start to look photorealistic, or at least they will, perhaps in 10 years or so, then you have to maybe change your position on the issue a bit?
That's a tricky subject.
That's why I asked you about
Yes, games. We take the stance that games are real art forms. We in the United States have always been behind the movie industry. The recent Supreme Court decision definitely helped us. We want games to be classified as art form. Everyone in this room has to agree with me that video games are an art. So when we have that type of respect and acknowledgement from governments, it will be easier for us. But it is an art form. We do make games for adults. The ESRB, at least in the United States, is I think much better than the MPAA at defining what the game is. I recently read the description that the ESRB has created for Rage. And it's so awesome, I kind of want to put that in the back of the box. They're like, violence, decapitation, they used the words F and the words S, and I was like, this is a great description. I want to play this game. Yes, but I do feel that
you don't like working with them, it sounds like.
The ESRB?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they've been great, and actually, the German, I can't remember their name now. What's the German rating board again?
USK.
USK, that's it. Yes, the USK has, we've always had a difficult time in Germany, but for Rage, we work very closely with the USK, and they have been great. And Rage is going into Germany 100% uncut. It's a big deal for us, and the reason that we were able to do that is from the beginning, from months before we went into CERT, we worked with them, we explained the game, we worked with their representatives, and it really worked out well for us. And we have a good relationship with the ESRB as well.
Should we get some reading questions?
I think so.
Do you have a stack? Or
No,
I didn't give you a cut. I'm sorry. Okay. This is going to be a little more rapid fire, Tim. So we're just going to, when we hit a good question, we're going to ask it.
Okay. Same for that one.
I've got a good one
Okay,
here.
good.
This is from Liam Edwards. The question is, what is your favorite FPS not made by id?
My favorite FPS not made by id? Well, I'm a big Call of Duty fan. I love in Modern Warfare 2 when the splash screen comes up and there's the little id software technology provided by id software makes the war glow in my heart. But I'm a big Batman fan. I know it's not really a first-person shooter, but you know, I'm a big Call of Duty fan or Batman fan.
Do you think there ever would be another shooter as, I mean, that's really the juggernaut right now. Do you think that's going to be the case for the foreseeable future, or may that change?
It's very interesting, and it's a huge following. When you have a game that sells 25, 30 million copies, it does change the industry. For example, a few months ago, we had some external testing that we wanted to do with Rage. So we hired a company in Dallas. They test everything from soap to video games. And we had, you know, casual gamers 18 to 24, 24 to 35. And we had this one guy who convinced a number of people in the casual gamer group that there was a bug in Rage that when you shoot the bad guys, they take damage and they limp, and sometimes they fall on the ground and they still shoot at you. And the group of guys were like, you know, in Call of Duty, when you shoot somebody, they take damage and they die. But in Rage, you shoot them and they're taking damage and they keep coming and they fall and they shoot. They're like, are you going to fix that bug? And it's just like, that's not actually a bug, that's cool. But when you have a game like that molds people's ideas of what first-person shooters are, you tend to run into things like that. But the great thing about Rage is that it's the only game this year, the top 10 most anticipated, that is an original IP. And I do think there may be some modern combat fatigue, and gamers are very smart, and they know when there's something new and fresh.
So this is.
See how we wove that into a plug for Rage?
Yes.
The guy is good.
That's why he's the head of the studio.
Okay, fair enough.
So Jose, I hope I'm saying it right, and Rax from NewReview.com want to plug their own website on ours. So that's good for them, and they did it. So they want to ask, what is your favourite? They don't want to ask that. What is your favourite part of the game development process? I'm guessing the end. And what favourite moment of yours should gamers watch out for in Rage?
Well, actually, my favorite part is the beginning, because that's when the slate is clean, and especially with Rage, because of the post-apocalyptic setting, and we don't really shove that down your throat too much. It really just is the setting for it. It allowed us to do things that were much different, like Bash TV and racing, and we have the Dead City missions and things. So there's a lot of variety and a lot of change. It's almost kind of a patchwork design, but still kind of is woven together well. So I think the beginning of the game is definitely the most enjoyable for me. The racing. I love the racing. I love driving around in the wasteland. I had one journalist that had an opportunity to play through most of Rage, and he said that he actually spent more time racing in Rage than he did in the last racing game that he had to review. So I asked him, I said, which game was that? He's like, oh, I can't tell you. But it was very exciting, that the game is out, people are playing it. I was always worried that the driving would be, people weren't really, won't be able to handle it, but it's really turned out well.
So there's some journalist out there who wrote a review of Gran Turismo 5 after like half an hour. Jonas wonders what the relationship is between, if any, between Rage and Breaking Bad. He says that in one of the latest episodes there was a character playing Rage with a light gun.
With a light gun, yes. So the folks at Breaking Bad were looking for a video game that could tie into the story, not.
Do you have Breaking Bad? You guys have Breaking Bad over here, right?
Yes.
Everybody knows what that is. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, not to give anything away, but the character Jess is reliving shooting this guy, and who says first-person shooters make you shoot people. They were looking for a new game. Bethesda has a good relationship with AMC, so they came to us, and we were so easy to work with. They said that they actually worked Rage into 2 more episodes, and we left like the Gale graffiti and some other Easter eggs that we had in for the clip in the game itself. Again, we're fans of the show in Dallas, and it was very exciting to have a good relationship with them. And yes, it wasn't the same. Like in the show, he had to use some type of light gun. He couldn't just stand like this, and the effect would not have worked. So that's why, we turned it into a light gun game.
Is that going to happen?
No, there is no light gun game. But that's the magic of Hollywood.
There's no name on this question. I can't imagine why. If I were cooking you eggs for breakfast, how would you like them cooked? What I know is they've then written e.g. poached, fried, etc. Just in case there's different ways that it can be cooked.
Yes. Well, I like them over medium, but I discovered that if you say over medium outside the U.S., they have no clue.
I have no idea.
Yes.
Is that over a medium heat or in a medium-sized frying pan?
It's like over easy, but just cook it a little longer. So
no idea. Over easy.
Fried.
Yeah.
Flip it. Wait a few seconds.
Yeah, like they say in the films, don't they?
Or like Sunshine on the Egg.
Movies you watch.
Yeah, so I did order over medium at a hotel that had, I think, Ukrainians working there, and I got a big ball of like this weird white thing. Very odd. Sorry.
Was that the one you were saving, the egg one?
Well, I've got some more. Do you want to go?
I don't have one.
Okay.
Yeah, give me a second. This will all be cut out.
So we'll get a bit more serious and sort of incisive here. The Big Don from Grumpy Gamers Podcast wants to know, what's your favourite biscuit?
So that like, actually, you know what? You know what my favorite biscuit is? And all you English will be like, huh? Chicken biscuits. Because in the States, a biscuit is bread, and it's like a muffin. And there's a restaurant called Chick-fil-A in the South, and Donna, our mom, orders us chicken biscuits every Monday, and they're these little muffins with a chicken nugget in the middle, and we call them chicken crack. So they are so good. Trust me, you guys laugh, but if you had chicken biscuits from Chick-fil-A, you'd be like, this is like chicken crack.
So the same person, the Big Don, also asked, what did you think of the Doom film?
Any movie that names a character after me has to be good.
Is there Dr. Willits?
There's a Dr. Willits, yes, and but if you play the Doom drinking game, what you do is every time they say Carmen, you take a shot, and every time they say Willits, you take 2 shots, which is Carmen, and that makes the movie much more enjoyable.